Chapter 38 of the Plum and the Golden Vase, Chongzhen edition of Embroidered Portraits. Wang Liuer beats troublemakers with a stick, and Pan Jinlian plays the peeper on a snowy night. The word says, the silver zither is spinning. The strings are tuned by the pillars, and the sound is echoing between the beams. Qin Sheng took pity on himself. The fingers are light and graceful. The wind is blowing and the snow is whirling. The clear music is slowly rising, and the sound captures the sky. When talking about saying goodbye to cranes and crows, try reading the chapter Luofu Mo Sheng. But don't follow the chapter Luofu Mo Sheng. Mrs. Feng walked to the corner door of the front hall and saw Diane waiting in front of the hall, holding a tea tray. Diane looked at Feng Ma's mouth and said, "You old man, go there first." My father and Yinger's father got up after talking. I have already sent the chessboy to deliver the wine. When the old woman heard this, she took 2 steps to do one. It's time to go. It turned out that Earl Ying came to us. Li Zi and Huang Si, who are the leaders, have sent us 30,000 taels of fragrant wax and other materials for the year, which should be 10,000 taels of silver. And there is also a lot of interest. After finishing the payment, we met Guan Yinzi at Dongbing Mansion and came. I'm arguing with you. Should I do it or not? Simon King said, I'm going to do it for him. I'll pretend to be the real one, and I'll buy and give up my position. I've had an incident in my Yemen, and I still want to touch him. Why should I do it for him? Earl said, if brother doesn't do it, ask him to find someone else. You only lend him 2,000 taels of silver and make interest at 5 cents every month, and ask him to close the money and pay it back to you. What do you think? Simon King said, that's right. For your sake, I will transfer 1,000 silver to him. Now I, Zhuangzi, have no money to clear it up. Seeing Simon King spit out the Earl's words, he said, brother, if you really don't have any money, how can you allocate another 500 taels? As for the goods, give him 1,500 pieces of money. He won't dare to miss you. Simon King said, if he misses mine, I have a way to deal with it. One more thing, please answer the second brother's request, and the silver will be given to him. I just want him to use my banner to deceive people outside. I found out. I'm afraid I won't be able to let him go in the Yemen prison. The count said, whatever brother said, the code guard must not ignore it. Responsible. If he goes out to play brother's flag, it's usually fine. If something goes wrong, what do you want me to do, brother? Just don't worry. But if something goes wrong, I will come and tell him. It's settled. I'll call him tomorrow. It's good for writing documents. Simon King said, if you don't teach him to come tomorrow, I have something to do. Ask him to come the day after tomorrow. After that, the Earl went. Simon King asked Diane to wait on the horse, put on his gauze, and asked the chessboy if he was there. Diane said, here we go. Let's take the arm. After a while, he took the arm and sent Simon King to mount his horse and go straight to Niobe Lane. Honor, the brother of Han Daoguo, did not want to play tricks, lost money, and ate nothing. So he came to his brother's house and asked Wang Liuer for a drink. He took out a small intestine from his sleeve and said, sister-in-law, my brother hasn't come yet, so I'll have a pot of xiaoju with you. The woman was afraid that Simon King would come and saw old Feng in the kitchen, so she didn't try to woo him. So she said, I won't eat it. If you want to eat it, take it and eat it on the side. How can I be patient? Your brother is not at home, and he is a troublemaker. What are you doing here? Honor was making trouble. His eyes were open, and when he didn't go, he saw a jar of Binato wine under the table with a red paper sticker on it, and asked, sister-in-law, where is the wine? Open the sieve pot and let me eat. Yeah, you can enjoy it. The woman said, you should take a break as soon as possible. It was sent by the father in the house. Your brother has not seen it yet. When he comes home, he will pour a bowl for you to eat. Honor said, what are you waiting for, brother? It belongs to the emperor. I'll eat for an hour too. Just as he was about to move the mud, the woman gave him a push, snatched the wine, and carried it into the house. He pushed the 2 naughty ghosts up and down, picked them up after half a day. His irritation turned into anger, and he murmured and cursed, thief and whore. I brought Kyra here with kindness, but I saw you alone and neglected, and you have a glass of wine. You ignore me and push me back. Let me teach you not to panic. You are dating a rich man. You ignore me and want to turn me on. You deliberately yell at me and ridicule me. Walking too much me. Don't ask me to bump into you. You worthless whore. A white knife goes in and a red knife comes out. The woman shook her head when she saw his words. A little blush started from her ears, and her cheeks turned purple for a moment. He took the mallet in his hand, hurriedly beat it out, and cursed. Thieves who are hungry to kill. You are drunk. Come to my place to spread wildfire. I can't spare you in my hands. The two troublemakers shouted loudly. Lily scolded the whore and went out. Unexpectedly, Simon Chongzhen came riding a horse. When he saw him, he asked who it was. The woman said, I know who it is. It's Hunter. When he saw that his brother was not at home, he wanted to play with money and lose. So he beat me after drinking wine. When his brother is at home, he often bumps into him and beats him up. When the two mischief makers saw him, they ran away quickly. Simon King said again, This young and dying flower boy, wait until I go to the Yemen tomorrow to do meritorious deeds with him. The woman said, You are annoying me again. Simon King said, You don't know, don't get used to him. The woman said, Human said, What Dad said is true. Since ancient times, good people have been bullied, and compassion has caused harm. He asked Simon King Ming to sit in the room. Simon King ordered the chessboy to go back to his house and call Diana. If you look at the door and see the shadow of the bachelor, lock him here with me and bring him to the Yemen tomorrow. Diane said. His soul heard that Dad was coming and didn't know where he had gone. Simon King sat down. When the woman saw the ceremony, she quickly asked her maid Jenner to bring out a cup of nut tea, ate it with Simon King, and then asked him to kowtow. Simon King said, Well, if you get a good child, you can just use it. Then he said, Old Feng is here. Why don't you get tea for you? The woman said, Mother Feng, I'm sorry. Then he started to use his hands in the kitchen. Simon King said again, The wine I sent the boy to bring is Juiking given to me by a minister. There is a lot of medicinal flavor in it, which is very potent. The day before yesterday, I saw that you couldn't even taste the wine you had brewed here. That's why I brought this jar of wine. The woman said another blessing and said, Thank you, Dad, for the wine. That's exactly what I said. I live in a remote alley and don't have a good hotel. I have to buy this kind of wine. I just can't live up to my expectations. Take it to the street. Simon King said, When Mr. Hong comes home, you argue with him, waiting for Shizzy Street to buy a house for you with a few taels of silver, and wait for you and your wife to move there. The shop is close, making everything convenient for shopping. The woman said, What Dad said is true. Seeing how pitiful your old man is, you might as well leave this place. Even if you, an old man, walk round, you will avoid the mouths of many little people. We are not afraid of him. If we are doing the right thing, Dad needs to be in a comfortable place in his heart. He is no different at home than when he is not at home, so he has to come this way. After saying that, the table was put down in the room and Simon King was asked to go in and take off his clothes and sit down. After a while, the wine and food were arranged, and the woman accompanied him and poured the wine. After a while, the two of them were drinking side by side. When the food and wine were strong, the two stripped off and went to bed to have sex and play freely. The woman had already laid a thick quilt on the bed, and the quilt was fragrant. Simon King saw that the woman was very romantic and wanted to impress him. A brocade bag was brought to the house, and when it was opened, it contained a silver holder, an acacia sleeve, a sulfur ring, a boiled white silk ribbon, a hanging jade ring, navel sealing ointment, a bell, and a collection of sexual devices. The woman was lying on her back on the pillow, her jade legs on stilts, and her tongue was spitting out. Simon King first taught the woman to put the Mayan bell into her womb, then tied a silver holder around its roots, a sulfur trap around her head, and applied navel ointment to her navel. The woman guides her into the female's vagina with her hands, and the two meet each other, gradually entering more than half of the body. The woman shouted, Dada, I'm just afraid that your legs will be sore. I'll bring you a pillow and you can sit on it while I, the whore, move around at home. Then she said, I'm just afraid that you won't feel comfortable. Do you think it's okay if his legs are hanging into the sun? Simon King Shen took off one of his leg straps, tied one of his feet, hung him on the bed and pulled him down, making the woman's pussy feel wet. The snail spits and twists continuously, pulling out a lot of white pulp. Simon King asked, "How do you shed all this white blood?" When he was about to wipe it off, the woman said, "Don't wipe it off until I suck it." So she knelt down in front of him and sucked it several times, making a slurping sound. Simon King was so lustful that he turned around and the two of them fucked each other. There is a sulfur ring on the gland's penis, which is difficult to astringent when wet and grinded. The woman frowned and held back for a long time. Simon King was quite pumping, and the woman touched it with her hands and gradually got halfway in and sat her butt in Simon King's arms. She looked back with watery eyes and trembled. "Dada, slow down. The back is getting bigger and bigger. It's a slut. How can a woman be endured?" Simon Kinky held up his buttocks to watch her movements and called the woman by her nickname. "Wang Liuer, my son. You don't know why you have to do this. You don't want to do this today. Meeting you is just what I wanted. You and I will be separated tomorrow." The woman said, "Dada, I'm afraid that I'm going to get annoyed later and ignore you." Simon King said, "Come on. Let's get together. I just realized that I am not like this." As he spoke, the two of them had enough to eat. Simon King ordered the woman to pass by without making any lewd noises. The woman was below, holding up her buttocks with her hands to receive his semen. She was extremely happy and passionate, and she was ejaculating like a shot. After he had pulled out those words, with a circle around him, the woman even sucked him clean, and the two of them lay down side by side with their heads together. Exactly. Generally, it tastes delicious and is a good garden flower. There are words to prove it. Beautiful friends who love to pluck the flowers in the backyard. Chang Wan just walked in front of the door, and he was caught by the pioneer again. It is unbearable to put it indoors. Turning the silk reins to rein in the horse, the kiss made my body numb, and the slave's pink face was damaged by the kiss. Simon King hugged the woman until around 2 o'clock, when the young man came to pick her up. And then he got up and went home. The next day, 2 arrests were made at the Yemen. The 2 troublemakers were taken to the execution court, and they were treated as just being thieves. Without explanation, they were pinched by 20 and beaten until their legs bled. I slept for a month and saved my life. From now on, Ying was so frightened that he no longer dared to bother women. Exactly. Hate the little non-gentleman, the non-toxic and unhusband. A few days later, Libo and Han Daoguo's group came back from Tokyo and told Simon King what was going on. Butler Zai was very happy when he saw the girl and said that Dad had taken the trouble. She stayed in my house for 2 days and asked for her return. The book. I gave my father a green horse, gave Han Han's daughter a gift of 50 taels of silver, and gave the younger one 20 taels of silver as a gift. Simon King said, "That's enough." After reading the book, there was nothing more in it than it means that the senses are not exhausted. From then on, both families gave their family members names and addressed them as in-laws. Han Daoguo and Simon King kowtowed and went home. Simon King said, "Brother Han, if you accept the gift money from your daughter, it is also a favor for you and your wife to raise the child." Han Daoguo repeatedly refused to accept it and said, "Thanks to my father's kindness. The gift money was given the day before yesterday. How can this little money man live well and bear it? How old is my old tired father?" Simon King said, "If you don't comply, I will be annoyed. You will go home. Don't spend it. I have something to offer." Then Han Daoguo kowtowed and said goodbye and went back. When the wife saw the man coming home, she was filled with joy. She took the luggage, dusted it with him, and asked him, "How is the child going?" The Taoist man told him what he had said all the way back and said, "Okay." When the child arrived, he was given 3 rooms and 2 maidservants waiting on him. Needless to say, he was well-dressed and well-dressed. The next day, he took us back and met his wife. Butler Zai was very happy and stayed with us for 2 days, drinking and drinking. Even the servants couldn't eat. I also offered 50 taels of gift money. I refused again and again, but the high official refused and asked me to take it back, because he took the money with the woman. The woman fell to the ground with a stone, because she said to Han Daoguo, "Tomorrow, we will still have 1 tael of silver to thank Lao Feng. Since you are not here, it is a good thing that he often comes to keep you company." The high officials also gave him a tael. Just as he was talking, he saw the girl coming over to hand him tea. Han Daoguo asked, "Is this the eldest sister there?" The woman said, "This is the new girl we bought. Her name is Jenner. Come and kowtow to your father." After kowtowing, the girl went to the kitchen. 2 months later, it was mid-October. Jin Ping Mei made some chrysanthemum wine at his home, called to young ladies, and asked Simon King to talk about it as a reward for sending the horse. We had lunch at Simon King's house, took care of some business, and went to Jin Ping Mei's house for a drink. It turns out that Jin Ping Mei prepared a banquet of wine and dinner just for Simon King. I was overjoyed to see him coming. I lowered my steps to greet him and went to the hall to pay homage. Simon King said, "Why are you so troublesome, sir?" Jin Ping Mei said, "This year the Han family made some chrysanthemum wine. Deacon Ku told me in my spare time that I didn't dare to invite him again." After seeing the etiquette, he took off his clothes and seated as guests and hosts. After tea, we played chess, drank wine and talked at the banquet, while 2 young children played and sang beside them. Exactly how much? Jin Zun enters the wine and floats the fragrant ants, and the elephant board urges the zither and sings the partridge. Not to mention that Simon King was drinking at Jin Ping Mei's house. Pan Jinlian saw that Simon King didn't come into his room for many times. The emerald quilt and hibiscus tent were cold every day. That day, I left the corner door open, raised the silver lamp in the room, leaned against the curtain screen, and played the pipa. Waiting until the 2nd or 3rd watch, Chun Mai looked at it several times, but there was no movement. Exactly, I play the silver jung diligently for a long time at night, but I can't bear to play it in the lonely empty room. He took the pipa, put it across his knees, played Second Offense of the River in a low voice and sang. He leaned against the curtain and fell asleep in his clothes. Suddenly I heard the sound of iron horses on the eaves, and I heard Simon King knocking on the door knocker. So Chun Mai hurriedly went to take a look. Chun Mai replied, "Mom, I'm wrong. It's the wind blowing outside and the snow is falling." The woman sang again. Listen to the loud sound of the wind. The snow sprinkles on the windows of the house, and the ice flowers are floating in the air. Once the lights were dim and the fragrance was gone, I felt like I was ready to pick the food. But when I saw that Simon King didn't come, I couldn't help but move to lazily. Sings, "I am too lazy to pick up the precious lantern, and I am too lazy to burn the incense and seals. If I survive tonight, I am afraid of tomorrow morning." If you think about it carefully, when will this trouble end? Thinking about it, I feel so anxious tonight that I wasted my youth. The people you leave behind are better than others. Let's say that Simon King came back from Jin Ping Mei's house after drinking wine round 1 watch. The weather was gloomy all the way, with half rain and half snow falling from the sky, which melted on my clothes. Unavoidable to hit the Malay family. The boy held a lantern and went straight to Li Pingera's room. Li Pinger greeted him, brushing the snow off his body and taking his clothes. After putting on his silk clothes, he sat on the bed and asked, "Brother, have you slept?" Li Pinger said, "Young officer has been naughty this time." So he went to bed. Yingxun brought tea to eat. Li Pinger asked, "Did you come early to have a drink tonight?" Simon King said, "Because I gave him the horse the day before yesterday. Jia Longshi took great trouble for me today. He treated me to a banquet and invited to more boys. After sitting with him this time, I saw that it's snowing, so I came home early." Li Pinger said, "If you want to eat wine, ask the girl to sift the wine for you to eat. If you come home in the heavy snow, you are afraid of the cold." Simon King said, "There is also that wine. You sift it and I will eat it." Today his family is eating chrysanthemum wine. I think it smells bad, so I don't like to eat it raw. So Yingxun put down the table, a few plates of rice, delicate fruits and vegetables, etc. Li Pinger took a spoon and sat down next to him. There is a small brazier under the table. The 2 of them were having a drink here, while Pan Jinlian was sitting alone on the bed in a deserted room over there, holding the pipo in her arms. The lamp on the table is dim. When I'm about to go to sleep, I'm afraid Simon King will come at once. When I'm about to stay up, I'm still sleepy and cold. I couldn't help but take off my hat, pull back the dark clouds, half lower the tent, and sit down hugging the quilt. Exactly, tired of leaning on the embroidered bed. I feel lazy and sleepy. The brocade tent is hung low and the embroidered quilt is empty. If I had known that I would have abandoned him so lightly, I would have let down my entire family. He sang again. regret for being unkind and neglectful, and worry about being away from home. Then she called Chun Mai over. Go outside and have a look. Is your father here? Come back and tell me. Then Chun Mai walked away and came back after a long time and said, Mom still thinks that father is not here. Is he coming home? Are you impatient? Are you drinking in Liu Niang's room? The woman just refused to listen. After hearing this, it was like stabbing several knives in her heart, and she cursed a few words of betrayal and couldn't help but shed tears in her eyes. Suddenly he played the pipa high and sang again. My heart feels itchy and painful, and I feel depressed and anxious. I gave up the sweet peach and went to look for the wild jujube. I have mistaken you as the fixed star. Thinking about it, I feel anxious because I wasted my youth. The people you leave behind are better than others. Simon King was having a drink when he suddenly heard the sound of the pipa being played, and asked, Who is playing the pipa? Yingxun replied, It's Wu Niang playing the pipa over there. Li Ping'er said, So you Wu Niang is still playing the pipa. I'm not sleeping. Shu Chun, go and invite your fifth mother to have a drink. You said my mother would invite me. Then Shu Chun has gone. Li Ping'er hurriedly told Yingxun, Sit down and put a bell and chopsticks in front of you. After a long time, Shu Chun came and said, Wu Niang has taken off her head and is not coming. Li Ping'er said, Yingxun, you go and invite Wu Niang. You say, Mom and Dad invite Wu Niang. Not long after, Yingxun came and said, Wu Niang closed the corner door, said she blew out the lamp and went to bed. Simon King said, Don't trust that little whore. When you and I drag him away, be sure to drag him over. Let's play a game of chess with him. So he and Li Ping'er came to beat his corner door. After fighting for a long time, Chun Mai opened the corner door. Simon King took Li Ping'er into his room and saw the woman sitting in the tent, with the pipa beside her. Simon King said, It's strange, little whore, why I asked you 2 or 3 times not to go. Jin Liang sat on the bed, motionless, with a serious face, and said for a long time, That man who has no luck. You left me in this cold room and left me to fend for myself. Why did you come here to pick me up? There's no point in wasting your time. Save it for other uses. Simon King said, Weird slave, my 80-year-old mother has no teeth. What did you say? Sisterly asked you to play chess with him. Just waiting for you to leave. Li Ping'er said, Sister, it's not serious. I have placed chess pieces in my room. Let's have a leisurely meal and have a glass of wine. Jin Liang said, Sister Li, you can go on your own. I won't go. You don't know that I am impatient. I am sleeping now, and I can't compare to your relaxed mind. I am so impatient. I have only been talking for 2 days. Who can taste the yellow soup and fresh water? I live with an open face all day long. Simon King said, It's strange, slave. You are so good. Why is it so bad? If you feel uncomfortable in your heart, told me earlier so that I could ask the imperial doctor to see you. Jin Liang said, If you don't believe it, ask Chun Mai to bring my mirror and wait for me to take a look. In the past 2 days, you have become as thin as a human. Chun Mai said the mirror was actually handed into the woman's hand and looked at under the lamp. Exactly, I am ashamed to apply powder makeup to the rhombus to make me look thin and radiant. Don't care about the wind and the moon behind closed doors. Let your plum blossoms make your own decisions. Simon King took a mirror and took a look at it, and said, Why am I not thin? Jin Liang said, How can I compare you to you? You eat a bowl of wine and meat every day, and you eat so much that you only care about others. Simon King couldn't help but sit down on the bed next to him, put his arms round his neck and kissed him. He put his hands under the quilt and felt that he had not yet taken off his clothes. He put both hands on his waist and said, My son is a little thinner. Jin Liang said, It's strange that the dealer is so cold-handed and makes people panic. Could it be that I coaxed you? My troubles? Who knows? I just shed tears from my stomach. After a moment of chaos, Simon King even dragged him to Li Ping'er's room, where he played a game of chess and had a drink. Before getting up, Li Ping'er saw his sour face and asked Simon King to go over to him to rest. Exactly how much? My waist is thin, so I know I am troubled by other things, and the tears are only for the deep love for others.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.